Hi, this is part 5 of the lip sync lesson. I have my little sample video here.
Hello, my name is Renee, and I love to eat pizza before school.
Now that you've had the experience of seeing how the program can put the mouth keyframes in for you, and also what it's like to have to edit that, keep in mind that you don't have to let the program do it for you. You can just do it yourself from scratch. And sometimes that's even quicker if the program didn't seem to do a great job of interpreting the audio file that you imported. If you weren't particularly happy with the way that the software interpreted that and put in the keyframes, then you can just go in and select all of the keyframes, delete them, and put in all the mouth shapes on your own. And also, this is very important, if you decided that you want to change the audio file that you put in there and you end up deleting it, the keyframes will stay. So if you delete the audio file and put a new one in, then you need to go to your mouth layer, select all the keyframes in there and delete them before you begin that process of double-clicking on the mouth, clicking switch, and then selecting the audio source. If you don't, you'll end up getting keyframes on top of keyframes, and then it'll really be a mess. Now go to your audio layer and double-click it, and click on the Audio tab. I strongly recommend that you uncheck the box for spatial positioning. Oftentimes, when this box is checked, what ends up happening is that the sound from that audio layer seems to travel back and forth across the left and right speakers, and it can sound very strange. So if you render out an MP4 video, play it back and listen to it, and it seems as though some of your sounds or some of the audio from a speaking part is traveling back and forth across the speakers, it's very likely because you did not uncheck this box. Now let's move on to animating the eyes. On average, we blink 15 to 20 times per minute. So that means if you've got a 30-second animation and your character is in there talking the whole time, you probably want to have 10 blinks. On average, a blink takes about a third of a second. So that's about 8 frames. Some of your blinks should be a little longer than that, some should be a little shorter than that. It's always better to have a little bit of variety. In the Layers palette, find your Eyes switch folder and click on it. So I only have about 4 seconds worth of talking here. I'll put in maybe 3 blinks, one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end. That might be too much, but I would just go over to the timeline and say click on near the beginning of when she starts talking. The area prior would be the fade in anyway. And so in the Layers palette, pointing over top of the Eye switch folder, right mouse button click and choose the Eyes closed, and then move about 8 frames, and then open her eyes again. And then I would just move down the timeline a couple of seconds, and again, close the eyes, and move some frames, and reopen them. And then I could do it one more time, closing the eyes, moving about 8 frames, and then opening the eyes again. So then it looks like this. She's talking and blinking. So we've got the keyframe dashes here instead of dots. If you want to change this blink duration, then you would point at either the very beginning or the end of that little area in order to extend or move. Okay, so you can do it like that. And anytime you want to insert another eye pose, no problem, just point to that area on the timeline. And then I'll just click over here onto eyes and try to look left. Okay, so all that did is split up that bar there. So now she's eyes closed here, eyes looking right, eyes looking left. So that's how you animate the eyes. Now for doing a little bit of head and arm movement, say, I'm going to recommend this time that you put a check mark next to Auto Freeze Keys down here. So going over to your Layers palette and clicking on the top bone folder for your character, and then clicking over here on Manipulate Bones. Then move over to when you're first going to start animating some of the bones on your character. Start out with a freeze pose. So go over to Bone, Freeze Pose. And then just go ahead and experiment with some small movements here. A little bit with the head and, perhaps the arms. You don't need to do a lot. It's just that it won't really look very good if you have a character that's talking and nothing else in their body is moving at all. So you can see right here that it only took me a few moments to just get a little bit of movement into the character and made her look a whole lot better. Remember that when you are working on your project, you'll have to change your total number of frames. That default 240 is not likely to be enough for this project, so you'll need to add to that. For the project this week, start out the file with the fade in. You'll need to include a background, either draw that with the software tools or import an image. Your character will need to speak approximately 6 sentences, and the topic suggestions can be found in the project preparation assignment in the classroom. Your mouth poses should match relatively well with the audio. You should have some eye blinks and a little bit of head and arm movement. You can also move other body parts as well. And at the end of the animation, include a fade out. So good luck with that. And if you're having any kind of problems or you have any questions, please email me.